Out. All right, recording has started. Then welcome everyone to this community meeting and dev meeting of the Keptn. And yeah, like every week, let's go and let's have a look on the agenda for today. Well, we have a big announcement. Yesterday we released Keptn 0.7 and it's now publicly available. Yeah, and feel free to use it. Just a note, we will do today the dev meeting today like we do it every week, but at the end we will do a short demo of the key features of the key announcements of Keptn 0.7. Please stay tuned and yeah, wait until we have done the official part of this meeting, and then we will go over the new features, at least by having a quick look on each new enhancement. All right, this is now all I have to say about the Keptn 0.7 release, and more is coming later today. Then a second announcement I have to share. Now, or since we are now listed as a sandbox project in the CNCF, we also got a Slack channel there. This means that we will also maintain the Slack channel, and to join it, please follow this link and then yeah, subscribe to the channel and feel free to post your questions or your thoughts about Keptn directly in this CNCF Slack channel. But still, we want to maintain, or our official way of communication is our Keptn Slack channel, but we will have a look on what's going on in the CNCF one. Yeah, as we will check it yeah, daily, and we will keep an eye on that. Then, like every week, we also wanna tell you that there are good first issues to start developing Keptn. When you want to get started with implementing a feature and don't know what is the best point to do that, feel free to go to goodfirstissues.dev or use the link that is provided here as well, and then you will find a list of good first issues that you can then start to work on. All right, and then like every week, we also want to point out that Keptn has a mailing list. Subscribe to this mailing list, and then you will get all the announcements directly in your inbox. And this now brings me to our next point, where we now go over the pull requests and the issues that have been implemented this week. We will do it yeah, one by one, and Andreas will now start to talk about his features he has implemented.
Cool, thank you. So as Johannes already mentioned, this week was special to Keptn because we have released 0.7, and this is also a reason why we do not show now big new features today. Instead, we have small PRs which we would like to discuss, which have been implemented for the new release. So my first one, which I would like to show, is I've renamed a flag in the Keptn installer, and this flag, when you type Keptn install, you can specify the service type of the Keptn API. And this was a little bit misleading because you do not only specify the service type of the API, but also of the bridge. So I renamed this flag into endpoint service type. And yeah, small changes in the code, but as this is customer facing, I would like to point this out. So my second pull request, here I addressed a compatibility issue. So as you know, Keptn always provides upgraders from an old version to a new version. And with Keptn 0.62, we did not have any creation date So for project services and stages, and therefore the command Keptn get projects failed because here there was no creation date available. And I fixed this in this pull request. So that's basically from my side. If you have any questions to this two pull requests, please let me know. Otherwise, I also see Imre in this call. I would like to hand over.
Okay, thank you, Andreas. So I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so I work on the bug fix for install CLI. If we go here, so it's just one liner changes. So basically, previously, if there is a failure in this call, basically for checking the Kubernetes version, it will return the irrelevant error. And now I'm just return another error saying that the error is failed to check the Kubernetes server version and wrap the error given from the check-kube server version. So I think that's all from my end. I think I will hand over it to Johannes.
All right. Yeah, in the introduction, I forgot to mention that this week is also a little bit different compared to the others because a couple of folks are already on holiday, on vacation. And this is also the reason why we are a smaller group today. But yeah, that's the way it is, and that's okay. Now, my work this week was mainly focused on updating the documentation for the Keptn 0.7 release, but I also worked with Andreas on getting this feature done, on getting the feature done that says to align the version check in the CLI according to the implementation in the bridge. And what we did is, when you now say Keptn version, then you will get the current CLI version, and you will also get an information that the daily version check is currently enabled. And this means that the CLI will check for new versions every day. And when you want to turn off this feature, just set this config, the config parameter that is called automatic version check. This is the parameter, the flag, and you have to turn it to false to turn off this feature. Let's do this real quick. Now when I turn it to off and I'm again typing in Keptn version, then the command is telling me that this daily version check is disabled, and I will not get informed about any new Keptn version. Yeah, and this is now aligned to the implementation in the bridge, which also provides this feature. And when you want to get more information about the daily version check feature, please follow this link. And here you will get all the information about the feature itself, how you can turn it off and turn it on. All right, yeah, this was the first one. And then let's have a look on the documentation for Keptn 0.7 because it changed compared to the previous releases. And let me go to the old documentation. And in the old documentation, we wrote the docs in a way that we followed a use case or followed a tutorial. And therefore, most documentation was written in the tutorial section. And there we provided then guidelines to onboard a service, guidelines to do deployments with quality gates, and so on and so on. And since Jürgen did a really great job on extracting this information into the tutorials page, which is now provided on keptn.tutorials.sh, tutorials.keptn.sh. Here you can find all the tutorials. we also decided to not structure the documentation in this way. And in 0.7, you will not find tutorials or any guidelines for doing certain things. No, we structured it now in a way to have it more focused on particular tasks. Like, for example, how you can operate Keptn, how you can manage Keptn. Then also you will find documentation for the continuous delivery part of Keptn. Then the same will be provided, or you will find documentation for the quality gates and automated operations. And then when we take a look into one of those sections, let me take the continuous delivery one. And here you will then find how-tos about exposing deployed services, setting up a multi-stage delivery workflow, or information about the deployments with Helm and so on. And now they are decoupled from use cases and documentation that stand by their own, so to say. And yeah, we of course we took it very we were very carefully when writing the documentation and when checking each link provided in there. But when there is a broken link, just shoot me a Slack message that you identified one, and then I will take care of updating broken links. And just maybe a side note on this, I think it's tonight or tomorrow night, we will do a check on the documentation to identify all broken links. All right, yeah, feel free to click through the documentation to get familiar where you can find information and provide feedback yeah, via Slack. All right, yeah, a lot of work was done for Keptn 0.7 docs. Then before we go on to discussing upcoming tasks, I want to point out that we are already planning Keptn 0.7, and for getting involved into the discussions that are going on around Keptn 0.7, please go to this Keptn enhancement proposal. It's Keptn enhancement proposal number 6. This proposal has the title, The Next Generation of Shipyard. And when you go there, you will find the documentation, you will find a proposal, how we think that the shipyard should look like in 0.8. Feel free to ask questions directly on this pull request, or to raise your concerns, to bring in your ideas, and to get involved into discussing the next way of declaring a shipyard file. And this will be the driver of the roadmap for Keptn 0.8, as we see potential use cases there, and we also want to implement, or we want to get to a point where we can split the Keptn control plane from the execution plane. But this is a topic I will touch on next week to have a outlook on what's coming next. But for this week, for the upcoming one, please feel free to take a look at the Keptn enhancement proposal and to provide your feedback. All right. Perfect. That brings me now to the point where we jump over to the work in progress Kanban board. Let's just go there. It's Keptn. And we go over issues that have been presented today, and this was Imre's implementation of the kubectl version check. Thanks for showing us your pull request. then as part of the releasing process, we updated the documentation. This was joint work amongst all team members. And I showed you that Andreas and I, we aligned the version check in the CLI according to the implementation in the bridge. Since Florian is not here and neither is Airman, I will keep those in the backlog, or I will keep those issues in the ready for review section, and we will ask these two gentlemen to explain their features next time. Then in the progress column, we have the release 0.7. Let me move it over to the ready for review as, yeah, it's done, and no further actions required. Okay, today I had a discussion, or I had a talk with Airman about his two issues there. He will provide a pull request by tomorrow where he does some refactoring on the bridge, and he also creates helper functions for utility functions, and he also wants to provide a pull request by tomorrow. And this is just a reminder that we don't forget to archive the Keptn, the Geometry extended service repo. All right, then let's go over to assigned and committed issues. The first two ones are also assigned to Airman. He wants to have a look on the bug that appears when there is a evaluation that did not work, or no, a test. When there is a test that did not finish correctly, or in an unstable with an unstable or unknown result, then the heat map is broken. And this is a kind of corner case, and Airman wants to investigate that and wants to provide a bug fix there. And he also wants to do some refactoring. Yeah, still ongoing, but he's taking a look on the code. And Imre, this issue is assigned to you. Actually, you assigned yourself to the issue. Thank you very much for doing that. Are you still okay working on that issue?
Yeah, actually the previous installation of Keptn didn't work on my laptop, so we'll try to install the latest version, the 7.0, and we'll start working on this one.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Maybe just a quick reminder for everyone who joined today. This issue is about implementing or changing the response code of an endpoint, because when you now do a get on the events endpoint, I think it is. Yeah, when you do a get on the event endpoint, then the response is telling you that there is an internet server error, but this is not true. It's just the case that the resource has not been found, and we want to change it from a 500 to a 404. Thank you very much. Then we pulled in to a couple of issues we want to work on this week. The first one is that we want to formulate the spec for Shipyard 0.2. All right, yeah, as I already mentioned, we have an ongoing discussion in the Keptn enhancement proposal number 6. And in this proposal, we have a new specification for the shipyard file. And this specification should be implemented in the Keptn utils package, so that we can use this struct for implementation. And I've also, before assigning this issue to someone, I want to also open that one, because this is also a SPEC related issue where we, oops, sorry, where we want to work on the events, and in the future each event will be a combination of a triggered, started, status changed, and finished. This means that, for example, a testing event is triggered by a test.triggered. Then the service that received this event will send out a test.started. In case there is a change or something changed during the process of executing the job, the service can respond with a status.changed. And finally, when the job is done, he has to respond with a .finished. And this is also a SPEC related task where we want to define those events for typical deployment and auto remediation tasks. All right, who wants to work on which item?
I will take the second one.
You take the second one, thank you very much. Andreas. And then I will take care of providing the specification for the shipyard auto 2. It's all right. Cool. Then I have here a good first issue that says that we can or should improve the CLI with a better error message, because when we have an environment where the Keptn CLI cannot communicate to a Keptn cluster, for example, because there is no internet connection or the API of Keptn has changed, then it should be possible to get better messages. Because right now it's just telling you that, for example, adding a resource could not be processed by this error message. But in the future, it would be cool to get at least some guidance why the command did not work, or why, or how you can fix it. It's I think it's a good first issue, since it's mainly related to the CLI and checking the communication and the error message from the API endpoint. And when someone wants to work on that, yeah, feel free to take it and to work on getting better error messages. All right. Then I still have this issue in there. It's about the heat map. Yeah, but since Ermin is already busy with refactoring and getting the bug fix for the heat map, I think we will keep that one in the backlog. All right. Any thoughts, any idea, or any concerns about the work for the next week? No. Then we discussed work in progress. We did go over the work for the next week, and we did a planning. That's great. Let me just close that one. Cool. Then we are now at the point where Andreas and I are giving you a brief demo of the main use cases that were implemented in 0.7. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 key announcements to announce. The first one I will now demo you is the closed loop remediation, and also now with the possibility to plug in custom integrations. the underlying Keptn enhancement proposal and spec change is referenced here. But yeah, but it's just for documentation and not required anymore. All right, now let's show you what has been implemented in regard to this use case. And for doing so, let me first go to the repository, that contains all the runtime configuration and also the configuration for the remediation task for a particular project and service. And in this case, I'm now using the project SockShop, which has 2 services onboarded. Let's go to the root folder. And in this project, now in this repo, we can see that we have 2 services, the cards and the cards DB service. And when I click on the cards service, here we can see that this card service has a remediation.yaml and also a service level objective.yaml. And when I open this remediation YAML, this is different compared to compared to the version we used in 0.6.2. Because what you can now do is you can now specify remediations in there for certain problem types. And the problem type is mapped to the title of the problem that is coming in. For example, or in this example, I have 2 problem types. One is for response time degradation and the other one is for a failure rate increase. And when a problem comes in with one of these 2 problem types, then the action, which is configured below, will be executed. And the action is, in this case, a scaling. This means that the pot will be increased by 1. And in case of a failure rate increase, it's toggling a feature flag. An action itself has a name, a description, and in the values property, you can specify values you want to send to the action provider. The action provider is then the service that takes care of executing the action and responding back with action.finished. Now, with this configuration added to the service in a particular stage, we are ready, or we are on a safe side. Whenever a problem occurs with the type response time degradation or failure rate increase, then Keptn will take care of executing the corresponding action. And now let's show you, or let's do this based on an example. And therefore, I'm telling you that currently I'm running a load test. This load test is sending requests to my service. And this we can verify by taking a look into Dynatrace. Here I'm just going to transaction and services. I have the SockShop production environment selected, and when I open the service, which is this one, then we can see that this service is hitting or receives a lot of requests. These requests are coming from my load test. What I'm doing now is that I turn on a feature flag. And the story behind that feature flag is that we want to enable a promotion campaign, which is implemented in the service that is currently getting the requests. But the promotion campaign runs into a failure rate, or runs into a failure, and then we will see that a couple of failures are occurring. Let me just refresh. Here we can already see that two red bars are now showing up. These two red bars are indicators that failures are occurring. And it takes now a while for Dynatrace to open a problem and then to send out the problem event to Keptn. And I have already prepared a way to send out this event in a faster. And what I'm just doing is I'm sending now, let me just show you the event itself. I'm just sending handcrafted problem event to Keptn, and this will then be the trigger for doing the remediation workflow. And for sending this problem event, I will do Keptn send event -f, and I will select the failure rate problem.json, which is a cloud event, and this cloud event is now sent to Keptn.
Can I quickly interrupt you and ask a question?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing is you are playing Dynatrace. And the reason for this is you do not want to wait until Dynatrace detected the problem and identified the root cause, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just, that's true. I'm now playing Dynatrace by just manually sending an event to Keptn and to inform Keptn that there is a problem.
Okay, I see.
Because it takes about roughly up 10 minutes for Dynatrace to identify the problem. But in Keptn, we can now see, let me just refresh the page to be sure that I'm showing you the right problem. And we can now see that the problem came in. It was at 5:34. And what now happened is that the problem was received by Keptn, then Keptn triggered a remediation, because if Keptn found the remediation file I showed you, then a status changed event is sent out. This has some informative character, but more important is that an action was triggered. Actually, the action which was specified for a failure rate increase, and then the unleash service, which is deployed, took care of executing the action, and he also finished the action. And what he did for us, he toggled this feature flag. I just refreshed the page. I did not toggle it by hand. This was done by the unleash service, and it turned off the feature. And this means that now we should not receive failures anymore. Let me just refresh the page again. And it's true, the feature flag was toggled, the feature was turned off, and now the failure rate went down to 0. And I'm not finished with my story, because after an action was executed, Keptn also takes care of validating the execution. And this means that Keptn now will wait for 10 minutes. You can configure this depending on your needs. But after these 10 minutes, an evaluation of the quality gate will be triggered. And this then ensures that the action worked or did not work. And again, we have to wait now 10 minutes, but we can also take a look on a workflow execution that was executed before. And let's just take that one. It's the same one. Problem came in, the remediation was triggered, the action was executed, and after 10 minutes, you can see it by comparing these two time stamps, we started the evaluation. The evaluation fetched the data from the monitoring solution and then did check on the quality, or did a check on the service level objectives. And in this case, the evaluation failed because no data was received by the SLI provider. but it is at least a validation whether the action worked or did not work. And when this evaluation is done and when no further actions are configured, then also the remediation is marked as finished and the workflow is done. And yeah, that's then the, yeah. All right. Any questions? I mean, this was now a very, very brief overview over the use case, over the new features. But when you want to learn more, I can also point you to a blog post that I wrote. Just follow this link. It's a blog post on Medium, and this blog post explains how you can set up your remediation workflows and how you can provide your action providers for Keptn. When there are no further questions, I will go on with talking a little bit about the improved API extensions. This enhancements were driven by a Keptn enhancement proposal from Christian. He proposed that he wants to get more APIs or endpoints for doing automation around Keptn. And what Keptn 0.7 now offers is a really powerful API. Let me just go to Swagger. Let me just go to the API of Keptn. And there you have now the possibility to select between the API service, then the configuration service of Keptn, and then also you can also select the MongoDB data store. Let me just tell you what the API service is. This service is responsible for doing the authentication. Then you can also get metadata from your Keptn installation by this endpoint. You can post cloud events to the event endpoint, and you can also do a post on the project and on the service endpoint. This means that these two endpoints, they will create a project and a service. Then from a configuration service point of view, you have the possibility to also get all the projects that you are maintaining with Keptn right now, and you can also fetch the resources that you uploaded that you uploaded. And based on those enhancements, Christian also helped us to enhance the Keptn CLI. And what you can now do is you can now type in Keptn get project, and you will get a list of all the projects that are currently maintained by Keptn. Then you can also do a Keptn get services. And you can also do a Keptn get services -- project equals sockshop. And then you will get just the services that are onboarded to the sockshop project. This now helps everyone to understand what's currently onboarded, what's available, and that's really cool work that also Christian helped us to implement. And let's just execute one endpoint together. Let's do, for example, the project endpoint. I hope that I'm authenticated. No, I'm not. Because this endpoint also gives you now a lot of information about the project. Try it out. Let's execute this endpoint. And you can see when you execute /get project, or do running this or doing a curl against this endpoint, then you get a list of all projects, the creation date, the remote URL of this project, and also the Git user that is used for this project, and the name, and then also a list of all stages, and in each stage the services that are deployed, and for each service you also get the events that were sent out for this service. But just the last one, not the entire list. You will just get the last event, for example, for a deployment finished, for an evaluation done, and so on. All right, then I'm going to my next issue, which is, or next announcement, which is hardening of Captain. We invested a lot of work into understanding the permissions and getting a clear set of permissions for each service. And for that, I want to show you, when you now go to Keptn, then to the installer, you will find no installer job there anymore. There are now just manifests, which is a great effort. Then we go to the templates. Oops, sorry. We go to the charts, of course. Then we take a look into the control plane of Keptn. And in there, we find the role-based access control. And here we now clearly define which service accounts are required, then also which roles we want to use or want to use for Keptn. And they all have a clear set of permissions now. And then we also assign those roles to the services by using the role binding. And this now helps us to get better understanding of what's going on, and also which permissions are required by which service. All right, yeah. Actually, there is nothing to show. It is applied to your Kubernetes cluster, but now you can be more, or now we are on a safer side, and also you can be on a safer side of understanding what is executed and which permissions are required. All right, then I will go over. Oh, there's now a question coming in. Does it still try to put the installer in default namespace? No, there is no installer job anymore. We now have just one Helm chart, and the Keptn CLI. A Keptn CLI applies this Helm chart to your Kubernetes cluster, but there is no job that gets triggered and executed. I think this answers the question. Yeah, it disappeared. Thanks. Then Andreas, can you take over?
Sure. So I would like to start with two rather technical highlights we've made. And the first one is that we are now using Helm version 3 for continuous delivery. What does this mean? This means we do not have to install Helm anymore. So when you have a look at your pods in the kube system namespace, okay, get pods, kube system pods, you will not find till anymore. So this is a major improvement, because this removes for us an external dependency, and only our Helm service requires the dependency to Helm 3, but not Keptn. So, and if you're familiar with Keptn, with Helm, you know that these Helm releases are now stored as secrets in the respective namespace, and I do have Helm releases in sockshop. And here you can find, of course, the releases which are available. Of course, we do not leave you alone with the upgrade from Helm version 2 to Helm version 3. And you can find all those details in our documentation. Go to keptn.sh docs, then operate Keptn, and then upgrade Keptn. And it seems that my internet is a little bit slow. Now we got it. Okay. We are providing an upgrader which allows you to upgrade Keptn version 6.2 to 0.7. And you can now do this by also upgrading your Helm charts or by not upgrading your Helm charts. So this is without the upgrade of the Helm charts, and this is with upgrade of Helm charts. If you decide not to do it with Keptn, of course, you have to do it manually, and you can find the respective descriptions and commands here. So this was my first technical highlight. The second one is we removed the installation of Istio and NGINX from our installation process. And all details can be again found in the Keptn, but we just got the question whether we still have an installer job, and the answer is no, we do not need those job anymore because we do not install Istio nor NGINX by default anymore. So this gives you a lot of freedom now how to expose Keptn. And I did a visualization how you can now expose Keptn. And basically we identified 4 options. Option 1 is using an ingress, and for those, of course, you need an ingress controller. This can be Istio, NGINX, traffic, and then you install Keptn and apply your ingress object inside Keptn. The second option is to use load balancer, and this is exactly the option I've chosen in my installation. Okay, get S.C -N. You can see that I've used a load balancer, which gives me an external IP address, which I can then use in order to access the API. Now let's use this IP address, and you can see I can access my API. If I do not specify the subpass API, I get the bridge and its dashboard. The third option would be to use a node port. So using the IP address of a node and exposing one port, which can then be mapped to the API gateway NGINX, which is a service of Keptn. And again, you can then access Keptn via this node. And finally, of course, you can always do a port forward and using kubectl -n port forward in order to access Keptn. And this would now then map the endpoint to localhost. Using this Keptn endpoint, you can do the authentication of Keptn. So in my case, I'm already authenticated. Yes, I'm authenticated against this cluster, and you're good to go. So this was the third technical, or the second technical highlight. And finally, I would like to present you the delivery assistant, which is a really, really nice feature when you're using Keptn in production. So what you can see here is a shipyard file, and you probably know most of the shipyard file except the definition of the approval strategy. So what I did here is I defined an approval strategy, and this approval strategy requires a manual approval before anything gets deployed into my second stage, into staging. So before I do this deployment step, I need an approval which user has to do, and we will afterwards see how to do this approval. Now you're possibly wondering why we do have to differentiate between pass and warning. So this allows you to use the evaluation result of the last stage in order to decide whether an approval is needed or not. For example, you can automatically pass if here I have an example, if the evaluation was a passing result, and then the artifact automatically gets deployed into the next stage. And for example, if you have a warning evaluation, you can do this manually. So what I've prepared now for you is, a few minutes ago, I sent 2 new artifacts for our card service in version 2 and 3 to our Keptn. However, you can also see that Keptn did not do the deployment in staging. Instead, it requests for an approval. So an approval triggered event was sent. And this is also true for my second service. When I now go to the CLI, I can now request exactly those open approval events. And you can do this with Keptn get event approval triggered, and I'm in the project doc shop, and I would like to see the approvals for the staging. And you can see here 2 open approval events. So it's I can see that there is an open approval for the image version 11.2 and also for 11.3. Of course, you can then also confirm an approval using the CLI, and therefore you can use the command Keptn send event approval finished. And Keptn again shows you 2 options. You can either approve 11.2 or 11.3, and actually you could see here the evaluation results, but in my case, in my installation, I did not do any evaluations. So if I would type 1 and press enter, I would have approved version number 2, and this would get promoted to staging. But I don't want to do this now because I would like to also show it in the bridge. So you can also use Keptn's bridge, which is the UI of Keptn, in order to see open approvals. And you can see here a blue sign which shows me, hey, there are open approvals. And again, I can see cards in version 11.2 and 11.3. And now I can use the bridge in order to promote this artifact. And I would like to have version 3 in staging. Therefore, I click here on 11.3 and go back into our service screen. And you can see here, approval finished was sent. And now the configuration change kicks in and sends this approval finished. So I do have to reload it. Yeah, approval finished was sent and configuration was changed, which triggers a new deployment now in staging. So that's basically the delivery assistant, and this really nice finishes our presentation. So if you have any questions, please let us know. We have 3 minutes left.
Andreas, there was one question coming in while you were talking, and the question is whether Istio is still needed before installing Keptn.
Imre, that's a really cool question. So in order to use Keptn, you do not need Istio or NGINX at all. But for doing blue-green deployments, in the background, we are using virtual services, and those can only be used if you have Istio installed. So there is no clear, so the answer is for Keptn, you don't need Istio, but in order to do the complete continuous delivery workflow, in order to do blue-green deployments, you need Istio. Perfect. So does anyone have feedback on one of those highlights we've presented? So is something like the delivery assistant, which I've shown, useful for you? So my question would be, in your company, are you using a manual approval before promoting to production? Or is this everything automated? Okay, there was actually a second question from Imre. So he is asking whether it is possible to specify the image version on the CLI when doing the approval. So this is not possible, and this has a good reason, because Keptn follows the approach to have never breaking pipelines. So each and every artifact has to pass the quality gate before. And so you cannot simply overwrite an image using this approval finished event.
There's also a check implemented. This means that when you send an approval finish to Keptn, then Keptn will check whether there is an open approval for that finished event. Because in case this check is not there, someone could hijack Keptn and could pull in an image that is not validated in the previous stage. And to avoid this security problem, we decided to not provide or to not specify the image when you send back an approval finished.
But if you're really sure what you're doing, you can always overwrite, for example, the image in production. So, but this is not possible with the delivery assistant. Basically, you have to send a new artifact event for production. So then you can simply replace the image in production. This can be useful if you have any security problems and you need a really quick fix in production.
Right.
And that's cool. So for all of you, Imre says thank you for the answers, and yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, since we are on the top of the hour, thank you for joining this Keptn Dev meeting. If you have questions to the 0.7 release, feel free to post that in the Slack channel. We are happy to get your feedback, to take care of your concerns, and also to address your questions there. Otherwise, have a nice week. We will see you, everyone, next week on Thursday at 5 p.m. And what I have to say is have a nice evening. Then see you. Bye.
Bye.